Warm greetings to everyone gathered here. This will be a group presentation, as we have been to Berlin for the IFA, as usual. And now we have met with the manufacturer Sharge for the umpteenth time, resulting in them sending a bunch of Sharge products here. Now, as you can see, there are specifically 7 products here. There is also a relatively expensive 160 Sharge Geek 170 combo notebook battery charger, external battery. There is a smaller version of this, which is just a $20,000 MAW solution, the Sharks 140, and it costs $100. We have 2 $90 gadgets. One is an external battery compatible with OnePlus, and the other is a foldable solar panel that can be used to power the battery, or in some cases, a phone. Here is a beautiful solution that goes by the name of Carbon Mag Power Bank. It costs about $60. Danny specifically wanted a charger head that resembles an old Mac, which actually costs $70. And there is also an SSD case here that costs $40, which Pro Hardware asked us to check out. So we will be dealing with these now. We will start unboxing them one by one, and then we will also look at them based on various measurement criteria. Well, the Sharge Geek 170 promises a maximum output power of 170 W and a maximum input power of 140 W, so this battery can be relatively quickly charged. It is a 24,000 mAh external battery, which means it has a capacity of 4,000 mAh. As for what you can take on the airplane, the limit will be 27,000 mAh, so there shouldn't be any particular issues with that, and it's waterproof. The box also claims that the design will be very futuristic. Now let's see. Okay. And this packaging looks very sophisticated at first glance. I believe that the cables will be in this little black box, which we will check right now. Oh, there's not just a cable here. But on the one hand, this is incredibly high quality, so at first glance, this is a Type-C to Type-C cable. We get well, we don't need this. We get a small portable charger if we want to put this in a nicer box. And here is the product itself, which is nicely packaged. And this, of course, is part of Sharge's design philosophy, which provides such plexiglass-covered, somewhat translucent or completely transparent items. Their other design philosophy is to include a display wherever possible, and there is one inside here as well. You can see that there are 2 USB-C outputs and 1 USB-A output, but the 2 USB-C ports are not just outputs. They also serve as inputs, meaning you can charge the device via Type-C. There is nothing on the other side, and by the way, if you press the power button, a very neat display appears here showing both the outgoing and incoming power, as well as the battery percentage. So this is the most expensive item, and we'll start showcasing it shortly. But for now, I'll set this aside for a moment. Okay, let's take a look at a slightly smaller device. This is the yellow Shark X140. Now, this is a white device, and when I take it out of the box, it immediately shows that it operates with this transparent gadget, but it's much less transparent than the larger one, because here, the battery itself is somewhat masked with a large Sharge label. However, you can see that it has 1 Type-A and 1 Type-C port. The Type-A is labeled with a maximum of 40 W, while the Type-C is labeled with a maximum output of 100 W and a maximum input of 65 W. I can also turn this on, and you can see that it practically has the same display as the larger icon, just in a smaller size. But the data it shows is the same. This is a much more portable item, because it is only 20,000 mAh and has somewhat lower performance. But if I place it next to the Sharge Geek 170, it significantly differs in weight and size. Both can be taken on a plane, of course. I think this one is more appealing to me, because it can do almost as much as the other one, but provides this functionality in a much more portable size. And if I dig into the box, I will find the same things as with the larger one. I can already tell that, even though I haven't gotten to that yet. But you can peek through the small hole And that means that we also have a cable in this one. And it also has a portable charger. Now, there is a suspicion that this is exactly the same size as the other portable charger. And yes, this is interchangeable. Here is the pouch. The essence of the pouch is that it has significantly less capacity, as it is labeled with 10,000 mAh, compared to the price difference being a bit small, because the 20,000 mAh one was $100, while this one is $90. So the price difference is very minimal. However, this is good because the previous ones I showed are standard PD, but this one uses OnePlus's solution, and theoretically, with its help, you can charge phones at that OnePlus speed. It is packaged more easily. Oh, this has all sorts of things in it. I can hear it shaking. Well, let's see, because this is a box that doesn't have a product image on it, so it could be anything inside. He says that, well, first of all, oh, this is quite a nice size piece, but I expected the 10,000 mAh to be a little smaller. It's packaged a bit differently. Oh, but it's very shiny. Wow. Well, thank you very much. We have more problems with this now. On one hand, it's a Chinese adapter, but you can charge it directly from the socket, so you don't need a separate cable, and there is one USB-C output on it here, and that's about it. When I turn it on, there is feedback here. These are the 4 dots. Hey, wow, that's amazing. Well, this is not bad. This is clever. So let me tell you what I found, because I'm also encountering these products for the first time. First of all, this looks like it magnetically snaps into place. Really cool. And if you take it apart, you'll see that you can use this on its own. It's not even Chinese, but a UK plug, so you can use it as a plug adapter on its own. You just plug it in, like this, and here is the Type-C connector from which the power comes out. So it's essentially a charging head on its own. However, if you want to charge it without that, you don't need to connect them together, because there is a USB Type-C input here, meaning you can plug in the power here, and then it will output from here. If you want to charge it with this, you just plug it into the socket, and you don't attach it like this, but like this, and then it goes into the socket like this. This is how it charges. So this is the trick of this thing. Obviously, that's why it costs this much. But since we have the box here, let's take a look inside, as usual. Because that's what the box says, and this is where things will get interesting. And that's why it was so noisy, because if I open it like this, then not only will it... We also find a couple of charger head adapters in it, which can be added rather than replaced, as you can see here. And then you can say that it already meets European standards. So this can be considered a travel external battery, because on one hand, it serves as a charger adapter if you only use that part, and on the other hand, when you snap it together, it becomes an external battery that you can charge with the adapter from whichever country or region you are visiting. It comes with a very stylish and OnePlus red cable, and, oh, don't joke, there are tricks here too. I open it up, take the cable, and snap it into this side, into this look. I finally figured out what these two looks are for, and I snap it into this look on this side as well. So now I have this construction, which is great because your cable won't get tangled. So, because this is quite well thought out, and I know it's like, well, I won't say instead of a handbag, but these little ears are so stable, and this cable is so thick, that it can basically take on a water bottle-like shape. Or there used to be a time when, well, it doesn't fit on my head, but there was a time when kids carried their keys around their necks in a little plastic container, and this really reminds me of that design. From the front, it doesn't say much, and from above, it doesn't either. But if I look at the back, it says, Charge Portable Solar Charger. So you can imagine what's inside. There are 2 things in it. One is the portable solar charger, which is a foldable solar panel. It has a Velcro-like design, and we get a solar panel of this size, and there aren't many tricks. There is a USB-A port on the back. This is 5 volts, 2.4A, so it can charge at approximately 15W. It's obviously only in a 15W because even under direct sunlight, this size of solar panel won't produce more. So it's completely understandable why it is limited to 15W. However, the situation is such that you can neatly pack this up, and it is quite easy to carry around. Plus, they provide an extra case with it. This extra case is primarily given because there is a cable for it, which is nice, but mainly because you can fit the Sharge 170 into it. Essentially, this solar thing can be ordered as an extra accessory for the Sharge. And when you assemble it, you have this nice setup. There is also a Velcro strap on it, which is useful for attaching your solar panel. However, the $90 price they ask for it is not insignificant. At the same time, there are situations where you are very grateful that you can recharge your otherwise huge battery in case you don't have access to a power outlet for several days, but you do have sunlight. This is a charger head, like a charger head. Well, technically there's probably nothing special about it, but the emphasis isn't on the technical specifications. It's that it's super cute. Basically, it has 3 USB Type-C ports, and the total output can deliver 67 watts. It's a very cute little thing, like this mini stylized computer clearly does not have an Apple logo on it, because otherwise there would surely be disputes over various patent and legal issues. However, it is quite obvious what kind of vintage computer this little gadget is designed to resemble. This is basically a bit of a gimmick, and because of that gimmick, they are asking for $60. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the time has come for us to start testing these things out. Let me show you what we will be talking about. On one hand, here is the most outrageous external battery from Sharge, which is the Sharge 170. I will just fish out the other external battery, which is the 140 model. Yes. So here are our 2 external batteries, and here is this GAN charger, which is 65 watts. And we have an Honor 200 charger, which is capable of 66 watts fast charging, but for that, we need the Honor charger head. So we will test these nicely. And here is an Asus ProArt notebook, which is theoretically capable of 200W charging, but unfortunately, it can only take 100W through the USB Type-C. But this is definitely already part of the assortment. We also have an external meter that is supposed to show how much current is flowing through it. So we will stretch these a bit here now. Now let's start with the simplest solution. I will take the Sharge's own cable, grab the big piggy Sharge, and now I will turn it this way, plug it into this, and connect it to the meter, which we call input. Then, with another cable, I will also plug this into the output. And at the end of this, I will connect the Honor 200. And then practically, everything starts, which means that you will see the charging speed begin to climb up. Right now, it falls back because at this time, the Honor phone communicates with the charger head to discuss what the charging speed will be. It takes a little while for things to really get going, but it's clear that it's starting to come together now. It's currently at 20 watts, then 25 watts, and we will soon reach the maximum of 5 to 38 watts, as this is what the Honor is capable of through PD in terms of input. And if I place the meter next to it, you will see that there is a volt, which is yellow, there is an amp, which is green, and of course there is the watt, which represents the charging power itself. And this is now also showing 3435, while the Sharge shows 3536. So obviously there is some charging loss occurring, partly in the cable and partly in the meter itself. But the situation is that what the Sharge displays practically corresponds to what our independent measurement also supports. So the Sharge is not lying, it really delivers the performance that is indicated on the display. Now, if I'm bold enough to pull this off and connect it to the Asus ProArt notebook, which is a powerful notebook, and theoretically its own charger is 200W, but that doesn't happen via the Type-C port. If I use the Type-C port now and plug it in, you can suddenly see that it jumped to 93 watts. So theoretically, the notebook could draw 100 watts from this port, and this device could probably deliver 100 watts as well. Although there is some loss and a communication agreement in place. So the charger, the external battery, delivers 92-93 watts, but it maintains this output steadily. Now, if I try the same thing with the smaller device, you will see that if I simply plug it in here, and the notebook is connected at the other end, I practically don't have to wait at all for it to start charging. I'm saying this, and it really jumps up. But it can do the same thing. It delivers slightly less wattage, capable of 88-90 watts on this one USB Type-C. And it can maintain and deliver that power completely stably. So from that perspective, there is no problem. Now, the interesting situation is that if I take this smaller battery and ask it to charge the Honor 200, you saw that the larger one could manage around 35 W, but with the smaller battery, it will be a bit less. If we look at the specifications of the two batteries, the two external batteries, we can say that the Sharge X170, which is the more expensive and larger product, supports PD 3.1, while the smaller Sharge, which is just the Sharge X140, only supports up to PD 3.0. It's a very good question whether the Honor 200 draws no more than 20 watts from this smaller battery, while the notebook I switched to requested 90 watts from it. However, the situation is that in this case, the product is only charging with 20 watts from the smaller battery. Now, let me show you something else. I'll set this aside for a moment. Here is this Macintosh lookalike charger. It's a GAN charger, officially 65 watts. And hallelujah, the little green lights are already on, waiting for the product so I can start charging something with it. Now, since the Honor is plugged into the other side, let's start by connecting the Honor. And it already shows that this MASFIX thing is transforming, and when the charging starts, it nicely displays how many watts it outputs. And you will see that it also stops at around the same point. At 20 watts, the charging of the smaller Sharge external battery stopped, which is likely because it is also only PD 3.0. But if I pull this out and plug it into the charge, you can see that there is a display on the charge as well, and you will soon see that the input counter is going to change now. It can be seen that these values increase completely in parallel, and our charger reaches the magical limit of 65 watts. Otherwise, it could handle a bit more, but here it is just 65, and the Sharge shows that it draws 64 watts. In this case, if I connect the Honor with the other cable, what will happen is that the output part of the story will start now. We have a fixed input power of 64 to 65 watts, and meanwhile, the Honor will also begin to request its share of the story. So, our output power will soon reach the 35 watts that it usually asks for, and it is clear that this does not change the incoming power at all. In other words, you can easily use this charger or this external battery by plugging the external battery into the wall socket and then using the external battery to power a phone. This means that half of the incoming power will be directed towards the phone, while the remaining portion will be stored in the battery, effectively allowing it to charge. The story changes quite significantly when I pull out this Honor phone and say that I will plug the external battery into the notebook while it is charging. In this case, what happens is that the notebook also starts to draw power. And at this point, the notebook only consumes 42-43 watts, which is about half of what it would draw when it is not powered by an external battery or an external outlet. This means that even this large and relatively expensive Sharge external battery has its limitations. Clearly, there is a limitation in charging management. If it wants to draw more from any external power source than what is being supplied, the Sharge simply cannot handle it. It will then indicate that it cannot provide that much power, and the output power must remain below the input power. Obviously, if you were to try charging this with a 100-watt charger instead of a 65-watt one, it would likely provide more power to the notebook. However, this is definitely a limitation. It should also be noted that this is a relatively rare use case where I'm charging this battery while wanting to draw power from it with a significantly larger consumer. Nevertheless, the fact remains that there is such a limitation in this scenario. I don't think it's a huge problem, but just keep that in mind. So, if I unplug the charger, the input is now 0. But the charging speed towards the notebook immediately starts to increase. Because what essentially happened is that the charging control solutions no longer have to deal with starting the incoming and outgoing power simultaneously. Okay, well, it also seems that this is a really funny little thing. This small, quirky charger, you can have quite a bit of fun with it. Now, however, I'm going to tidy up a bit from here. Here's the situation. Various charging numbers have been flying around here in the past few minutes. Watts, amperes, and so on. It's worth clarifying these a bit because you don't just buy an external battery by checking how many volts, how many amps, and how many watts it has, and then say that it will be perfect for you. Unfortunately, the reality is that the world has fallen a bit behind in standardization, and as a result, different companies and manufacturers use various charging solutions. The essence of the story is fundamentally that after a long time without a standardized interpretation, or where the existing standard was essentially owned by Qualcomm, many companies, especially in the smartphone market, claimed that they could achieve much better charging performance than the current standards, and they expressed their own standards. And that's why there are now several different standards. Fundamentally, it can be seen that Chinese companies have the most diverse standards. Honor and Huawei have their supercharger, which are generally compatible with each other. Within the BBK group, there is SuperVOOC and others. And obviously, there is also a charging solution in the Xiaomi ecosystem. There may be some smaller charging standards as well. But the key point is that a Xiaomi phone that charges at 120 watts can achieve that 120 watts with its own charger. The fundamental reason for this is that these charging rules were designed by companies that wanted to outpace and promise much more than what, for example, Quick Charge offered back in the day. The charger and the phone communicate with each other through the USB cable, and the phone essentially controls the charger via the USB cable, telling it exactly how many volts and amps it needs, constantly adjusting this based on its current charging status. There are a lot of sensors in these ultra-fast charging phones that monitor temperature and other parameters, effectively protecting the phone's battery from damage caused by such lightning-fast charging. If any anomaly occurs, it immediately notifies the charger to slow down, and then there won't be a problem. Moreover, it is also a common experience, as well as a general observation with electric cars, that the maximum charging speed is approximately. They can achieve this between 20–80% charge at the beginning. They don't want to push it too hard to avoid any potential issues later on. However, towards the end, they slow down the charging to prevent overcharging and to avoid reaching 100% in a rapid manner, as this can damage the battery, or rather degrade it. I would say it reduces the cycle count. That is why all these charging solutions and standards work best when using the specific charger designed for the specific phone. This has been recognized by the European Union and fundamentally by global organizations, leading to the establishment of the PD, or Power Delivery Standard, which is now at version 3.1. There are rumors of a 4.0 version, but 3.1 already supports charging at 240W. Charging smart devices with more than that is currently somewhat meaningless. The key point is that with PD 3.1, any fast charging can truly be achieved, and this PD standard is now considered a global standard. However, various other vendors, suppliers, and manufacturers are not prohibited from using different standards alongside PD. They decide what to include in the PD standard, and they also determine what else to add alongside the PD standard, which may be their own development, but this will only work with their own charger. It is no coincidence that there is also a power bank in the offer specifically designed for OnePlus SuperVOOC, which has already been mentioned in the last few minutes. So the point is that the devices from the brand specify which PD standard they are willing to cooperate with, particularly the external batteries. If you already have 3.0, that's enough for many things. 3.1 can really support anything. It is said that it can also power notebooks if the appropriate menu performance is provided. So these are worth considering when choosing an external battery. The most important thing is the capacity, as this tends to be the most crucial factor. Only those who do not want to bring their devices on board an airplane should go above 27,000 mAh, as batteries cannot be taken on board in that case. In addition, it obviously matters how it looks, and I think the mud flaps look really great. Another question is whether this Toblerone-shaped power bank is the most practical solution in terms of portability. I personally prefer this more traditional, capsule-shaped 20,000 mAh battery. It appeals to me more. Additionally, there are various options like safe charging, fast charging, and dual charging solutions. So the range is very, very wide. The yellow has the advantage in the story that it seems they can absolutely deliver on the performance and functionality they promise based on the current tests. But I don't think that's how they won the hearts of all the attendees at the exhibitions. Rather, it was because of how they look. This transparent design is particularly unique. One could say it looks very high-tech. Yet it has a touch of humor. The assembly quality is excellent, and it's quite charming that these more expensive chargers have displays that allow you to track exactly what is happening with the external battery. So, these are very cute accessories, and they really focus on the little charger heads that resemble small gadgets, along with all the other little devices, which are all very charming pieces of equipment. You know, it's not just at Saxi's. We recently saw at IFA that Ugreen also has some really cute little chargers. So every manufacturer has realized that technology is one thing, and technology consists of standards that must be met. However, the decision fundamentally depends on how it looks, how users can benefit from the company's philosophy, the design line, how much they like the device, and how reliable they consider it. Sharge has captured these nuances quite well, because no matter what event we attended, when I went to the Sharge booth, whether it was CES, MVC, or ZIFA, there were always a few people just fiddling with these gadgets, checking out how well designed they were. Okay, these are not the cheapest external batteries on the market, even if you consider that they have PD 3.1, 170 watts, and various displays. You will still find many other suppliers and manufacturers offering the same capabilities and capacity for a lower price. The goal is not necessarily to provide the best price-performance ratio, but rather to offer the most memorable, unique, and distinctive solutions to customers, and these devices meet those criteria in absolute terms. There is so much more to discuss about these, as there are really all sorts of nonsense that could be tested, measuring how long it takes for it to actually drain, how much energy is left, compared to its nominal capacity, how much charging loss it incurs, and where the power disappears from it. So, there are countless things that could still be talked about, but it would make for a very lengthy and verbose video, and it's not even certain that it falls within my area of expertise. I am very pleased that we finally had a complete assortment from the brand, and we were able to showcase these products, because we have actually been working with varieties for a long time. On one hand, we really like these products, and on the other hand, we believe that they are indeed attractive and eye-catching, and they will likely capture people's interest. The shouts could really be caught in this. This video turned out to be long. I never thought it would be this long. However, I am very glad that it happened. I have wanted to do this for a long time. So if you also feel that it wasn't in vain to sit in front of the monitor for such a ridiculously long time, then I sincerely thank you for your perseverance, and I am extremely grateful for it. If you think you would like to watch more similar videos on that channel and you haven't subscribed yet, then you will definitely get a little nudge. But fortunately, you can quickly fix this by pressing any of the buttons around me, and then you will probably reach the subscription before that. So feel free to do that. And if you want more similar content, well, I've already mentioned that. So, I really can't say anything more. Please turn it off. Bye.